Hi there, listeners. This episode is jam-packed. Jen is chatting with David Strout, the owner of Catch Me When You Can in Saugerties, about antiquing in the Hudson Valley, as well as his work with floral design. And David has some tips for us about creating our own floral arrangements. Unfortunately, I had to sit this one out as I was tending to a minor boo-boo I had. I was so sorry to miss it, but Jen has got you covered this episode and the next one, and then I'll be back all healed up and ready to go. Our Valley Girl correspondents are back. Danielle has the details on the Sleepy Hollow 10K. Are you brave enough to run the Headless Horseman Bridge? And Rebecca has some haunted history in Troy. But before we dive in, we have a favor to ask. The Discover Pods Awards help promote new and independent podcasts, those of us who might be too small or too regional to get much love from the algorithms. It would mean so much to us if you would nominate Valley Girls Podcast for the best new podcast of 2024. There's no cost, and the nomination will only take you about 60 seconds. You can do it today or any time before October 30th at discoverpods.com/2024-podcast-awards or through the link on our homepage, valleygirlspodcast.com. We'll also put the link in the show notes and on the episode page of our website. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Hello and welcome to Valley Girls, the bi-weekly podcast exploring everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. I'm Jenny Leifer.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, and together as the Valley Girls, we're telling the Hudson Valley story one episode at a time. We're so happy you're here. Thanks to The Book and Nook for sponsoring this episode. The Book and Nook is Warwick's only independent bookstore. The Book and Nook is Latina-owned with over 2,000 new and used books in stock. And if you'd like to get to know the proprietor of the shop, check out my interview with Candace Rivera on our Literary Hudson Valley YouTube channel. We'll drop the link in the show notes. Candace will be here with us on the podcast on November 14th for our special episode focused on how you can support Hudson Valley businesses by shopping small this holiday season. She might even have a giveaway. And if you're heading to the Book and Nook and are in the mood for some spooky season reading, make sure you're subscribed to our free newsletter, because this week I'm going to include a list of my horror recommendations. That's exclusive to newsletter subscribers, so go to valleygirlspodcast.com to sign up. Last season, on episode 18, we talked to Emily Lee Mandry, who is a jewelry designer with a gorgeous shop on Main Street in Saugerties. And she mentioned her friend David, who has an antiques business, and that perked our interest right away. Antiquing has always been a favorite pastime here in the Hudson Valley, and we want to know more. So today we are talking to David Strout, the owner of Catch Me When You Can, with thanks to Emily for the intro. Hi.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to be on the podcast and for visiting me over the summer. That was really fun.
Yes. So you have a lovely shop on Partition Street in Saugerties. And when we visited you there a few weeks ago, we actually took a video of you talking about a stunning piece that you have in your showroom. And we will put that up on YouTube for everybody to have a look at. But how long have you been in that space there, and why Saugerties? How did you end up in Saugerties?
So I actually grew up in Saugerties. I was born and raised here. I went to school here. I lived in the city for a long time. And then, I moved back up here over a decade ago, and I was reverse commuting to the city. And then, at some point I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And then COVID happened. And I always wanted a retail store. And I particularly always loved this spot. Before I moved in, it was a hair salon owned by someone I went to high school with. So when I kind of caught wind that it might be available, I swooped in, not with like a huge plan other than I had been doing floral work, and I decided to just go for it. So that was in December of 2021 that I signed my lease here.
Wow.
And then in January, I opened the door and I was like, what did I do? Because, the place was in a little bit of a rough state. So, I did what I had to do. And then, so I've been open for about 2.5 years now, in a So the antiques in the front of the store are relatively new for me. I am a florist, and I always had, some vintage furniture and tabletop and just like smaller items in the front of the store. And then I just like get this itch. I was like, I got to make it better. I got to do something different. And I really wanted to just bring in like bigger, more substantial pieces. So, it took me several months to get together everything that you see in the store now and also what's in storage. So, that's kind of how I got here today.
I mean, it is so beautiful. It's such a vibe. As soon as we walked in, the first thing Jenny said was, "Oh, it smells so good in here." And let me tell you, we are obsessed with the incense we got from you, the Japanese style incense, which burns so much cleaner. It just smells good and woody, and it doesn't have that like cloying incense smell. Everything is so aesthetically pleasing there in the store. I almost felt like, oh, I'm not fancy enough to go in this store, but you were very welcoming. It has a very relaxing vibe. And I mean, I just love all of Main Street and Partition Street and Saugerties. That is like the quintessential kind of like Hudson Valley, Catskills, strolling, shopping, going into the cafes, the bookstores. It's so great there.
Yeah, I mean, Saugerties is a great walking village. That's one of the things I love about people that are moving here kind of in this wave of new residents. I feel like they take advantage of it more. Like they want to live in a village, like they might be coming from a denser population area. And like we were just talking about, the hill on Partition Street, if you walk all the way down to the bottom, there's a little beach at the bottom, is great exercise. I feel like it's like an action-packed like 16 minutes of like huffing your way back up the hill. So
but there's good scenery, so it's worth it. And then when you get to the top, you can go to a coffee shop or something.
There's seating by the water. So yeah, Saugerties is great. I'm glad that you appreciate it.
Oh, I love Saugerties. All right. So how did you get into the business of antiques and design? I know you came from floral design. You obviously have a design eye and aesthetic, but how did you get into furniture and antiques?
I think it's just something I've always been into. My family, we have antiques from my parents' generation and prior that we've always had in our house. When you start to look around, you can see pencil markings. People might write like the date that they bought it and things like that. So I've always appreciated that. And I also think back to like when I went to France, going to Versailles and just visiting some of these more, palatial properties where like you're not being exposed to that around here was eye-opening to me. And I do think I have a little bit more of a taste for European antiques, but I also like, the rustic feeling of the Hudson Valley. So, I hope that's reflected in my store.
That's super cool. So, all right. So I always say like, oh, I love antiques. We have pieces, especially my mom has pieces that belong to her grandmother, or, her grandmother had already gotten them as hand-me-downs from somebody else before she ever inherited them. But I don't know a lot about them. I don't know how to research them, and I don't know if it matters. So my questions for you are somewhat philosophical. Just as an amateur or a hobbyist, somebody who wants to get into antiquing, like I'm not going to turn it into a business. I'm probably not going to do a lot of research, but to spend the weekend going around to estate sales or yard sales or whatever, and just finding a few unique statement pieces for our houses. What kind of advice do you have for us? Like, where do we look? What do we look for? How do I know if something is good quality? How do I trace the provenance of a piece? Or does it matter? Do I have to know any of that?
Okay. So I think, to me, like I kind of make decisions based on aesthetics. The world of antiques is really, just there's so much detail, there's so much to know. And I was at the Met, I got stuck in the city with a flat tire in August. And then it was like I needed more than one tire and they were back ordered. So ended up staying in the city for a couple days, and I spent like a ton of time at the Met. And just like going through the decorative arts galleries and other areas of the museum, you see how like the motifs really go so far back in time. And I think that's one of the things that make it so difficult to really like pinpoint, certain pieces, like what exact time they might be from. Many pieces are in the style of Louis Philippe or Louis XVI. So I always just say, like, go with what you love, and focus on your overall design. And I think there's a point, like, there's antique and vintage. The dates of which you fall into those categories are always shifting as time goes on. But I kind of think of like pre-industrial revolution, like nascent industrial revolution, and post-industrial revolution, because I think that's kind of where you start to see the changes in quality and materials. And it's like we could go out today and get a really bad pizza or a really good pizza, and I think that applies to antiques, like at furniture, anything at any point in time. Like, you have your exceptional examples, and you have kind of your basic stuff. So some of the things that I look for, looking at the sides, obviously, dovetailing, that kind of manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the
can
back.
Can you explain what dovetailing is if people are like, I don't know what that means?
It's like wood joinery. So, instead of using nails and more modern methods of attachment, pieces, were put together by creating joints with the wood.
They kind of fit together like puzzle pieces on the corner.
Yeah, like a little triangle that fits in. And, I think from there, on the opposite spectrum, you might get to a piece that looks antique or looks old or looks like it's from a certain period, but it might have like a thin veneer where you see it's really starting to show its signs at like the corners and the pressure points, like things that might get knocked during moving. And I think, reproduction pieces and, veneer, more modern veneers are all fine, but really just like, does it work for my home? Does it work for my space? Do I love it? Is it a project? Because that's the other thing. Like, I bought a late 18th century commode that I really love, and it's like such a project. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with it, because someone had like taken off all the escutcheons and hardware for something else, and it has like the most beautiful legs and like lines and everything. But I'm like, the amount of money I would have to put into it to sell it is, I'm not sure if it's going to happen. But you're looking at what you're getting. So, and I hope that makes sense, because I just think, if you're looking to build a museum quality collection, you can do that. But you probably will have to add a couple zeros to your budget. So,
so you're looking for quality construction, and you're looking for something that, to borrow a phrase from Marie Kondo, sparks joy, something that you love.
Yeah, and like the thing I love about like earlier furniture is it was just much more individual. Like this armoire that's behind me has this like charming scroll motif, and like they did just the right amount. Like, it's not overdone. Like, I could see this working in like a modern home and a period home. Like, it really is super flexible and offers a ton of storage. So those are the kind of things that I personally look for. Like, is it going to work in all the varieties of homes that that I'm near in the Hudson Valley? Like, can it be used in a more modern way, but also still work for someone that likes period furnishings?
Yeah. So if you love it and it fits your house and your style, it kind of doesn't really matter. Like, Architectural Digest is not coming over to take a picture of my house. So if I have a Louis XIV chair in my foyer, and then I have like an antique Dutch farmhouse pie safe in my kitchen, no, like the design police are not going to come, right?
Yeah. I think, for me, part of the exercise is, does this go with this? Does this go with this? Does this go with this? And once you finish going around, you just decide what you like and what works together. You can always move things around. I'm a big fan of like having a place to hide things, so you can like switch it up. You can fit a couple chairs in the basement or the garage and like rotate them in and out. I think, this business definitely kind of gets into shopping addiction and hoarding to a certain degree. It's a fine line. That's why I only try to buy nice things. And I think, you can resist the impulses. There's always going to be something else. I mean, just to touch on a few of the amazing places to shop in the area, there's Saugerties Antique Center around the corner. They have like, their place is like massive compared to mine. They have a ton of stuff. It's looking really nice right now. I love the warehouse in Hudson. Like, I can't drive by without going in there.
Yeah.
And I've like,
they have a great Instagram
shopper
too. Like, every weekend they're posting something on Instagram that's making me drool. And I'm just like, I got to rent a U-Haul and go there right now.
Yeah, like I'm really fast now. I can like zip through that whole place in like 15 minutes. Like I just need to go and see what's there. And in terms of like provenance, I just think it's so hard to trace. Like I'm actually just this morning, I was working on shipping arrangements for an Italian Renaissance cabinet that I bought that comes from a prominent American industrial family. But like it
Ooh.
doesn't really matter. It's like I've sold, pieces that are like so worn with time, like with like the insect damage and everything, but just like that wear and tear makes the wood look so beautiful. Like a lot of
Mhm.
these older pieces, like the slabs are coming from like huge ancient trees. Like it's just hard to reproduce. And like that's one of the things I like so much about antiques.
Oh, and I love a patina, and I love the quality of the pieces. Like the fact that my mom has things that her great grandmother sat on, where, we're all out here buying flat pack furniture that if you open the drawer too many times, the whole thing just collapses. So I think at any price point, there's that to think about, the sustainability, the history, the story of the piece, but also just that you're not buying more kind of cheap chemical laden crap that's going to be in the landfill in 3 years. So that's important too.
Yeah, some of these pieces are exceptionally sturdy. It's kind of, you know, there's a outlet store for a very famous large format furniture store. I don't want to like distinct companies or anything. But like I went in there and looking at the armoires in there, which have kind of like a historical nod in design, and they're like falling apart. It's
Yeah.
like these are things that retail for like $8,000 to $12,000.
Oof.
So I think you do have to be a little bit delicate with antiques and sometimes be willing to live with certain things. On the flip side, there are like carpenters that are really creative. A lot of times leveling is an issue,
Mm.
or if you have a piece like this and you want to modify the inside, building something inside of it that suits your need without altering the original
Hmm.
character is something that can be done.
Oh, that's neat.
So,
Do you
yeah.
know the folks at Found and Fixed?
I don't actually.
So they're a co-op. They're based in Highland, and they started maybe a year and a half ago. I think if you go way back to episode 4, maybe of our podcast, we talked to LV and Susanna, who are part of the co-op at Found and Fixed. And actually, Jenny just bought a piece from them recently. So they rescue and restore solid wood furniture, and they do beautiful work. So that's a place where if you come across a great find and you're like, I need this, but it's a project and I'm probably not doing that. That's what Found and Fix does. And they also find things and, fix them up and flip them. But it's really beautiful. And they're very dedicated to preserving solid wood furniture, keeping things out of landfills, staying away from those, armoires that are already falling apart by the time you put them together. So that's very cool.
I just pulled up their website and I have seen them on social medias before. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
they're
think there's
super
just
cool.
so many. I'm like not a crafty person, so
Mm.
I give a lot of credit to people that are able to reimagine and recreate pieces like that. And like
Yes.
you hear so many opinions. Like I always like the devil's in the comment section. When you see like all these reels of people doing these for furniture, and then you hear all the comments. Like to your point, it's just great that people are like upcycling and repurposing and making things their own.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you have a family heirloom and you're like, would never get rid of this, but it doesn't fit my style. I mean, they're the people
Yeah,
to go to. They could, wallpaper the inside of your armoire or change out a cabinet door for a glass front and just make it so that the things that you have and love and want to hold on to can also work with, the way you live right now. But speaking of that, is there any etiquette that we should know? If I go to antique warehouse or an estate sale or whatever, how do I not be a jerk? Are prices negotiable? Is it reasonable to ask people questions about what they're selling? Just what's a good way to not be a jerk antique shopping?
well, I think a lot of antique dealers have a great passion for what they do, and also like extreme knowledge. There's a lot of specialists, so I definitely say ask questions. There's often like I'm sitting on a chair from the early 1800s right now. I'm kind of like grown attached to it. I'm supposed to sell it, but I'm like it's got a nice like spot carved out for me. you to like beware of time. I think, a polite way to approach this is to ask if there's any room.
Mm.
I'm gonna say like people have come in here and offered me like lowball prices, and in my head I'm like, I have another piece to show you. It's the door, because there is a cost to
Sure.
curation, holding storage, like financing the purchase of all this inventory and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when people come in hot, it's kind of like buying a house. Lowball offers don't always get a response, but it's always worth asking and just be polite. And, I think, that might get you the best response is
Yeah.
just kind of like asking if there's room.
All right. That makes sense.
And now, Rebecca and Danielle are here to get us in the mood for spooky season. But stick around, we have more coming up with David Strout on floral design.
Hello, and welcome to A Capital Idea with Rebecca Ash. This week we highlight a history of the haunted Pinewoods Cemetery in Troy. Though the locals know it simply as Pinewoods, the officially named Forest Park Cemetery is said to be one of the most haunted places in the Capital District. The property dates back to 1897 when a consortium of businessmen founded the cemetery, but records indicate that the land had been used for burials as far back as 1856. It was designed by Garrett Baltimore, notably the first African-American graduate of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and was meant to outshine Troy's nearby Oakwood Cemetery, also rumored to be haunted, in size and beauty. However, the corporation went bankrupt and the designer's plans were only partially completed. Creepy urban legends abound, including talk of headless angel statues that bleed from the neck, a haunted mausoleum, death of a Buffalo man, Harold Hubbard Horn, in 1916 from a gunshot wound to the head, grave robbers, the spirit of a troubled man who roams the cemetery at night, interference with cellular phones, and mysterious figures and orbs that appear in photographs. In fact, the front gates of Pinewoods is said to be the gates of hell, though local legend that an article in Life magazine named it as such has since been debunked. Alas, no such article ever existed. While it is now abandoned and trespassers are warned not to disturb the cemetery, Brunswick Historical Society conducts a donation-based walking tour every October, with the proceeds going towards its restoration from vandals and the ravages of time. This year's tour will take place on October 19th at 1 p.m., so you still have time to head over to their website to register. Bring your camera and your nerve. Happy haunting! Forest Park Cemetery, aka Pinewoods, is located at 391 Pinewoods Avenue in Troy.
Welcome back to the 4-in-1 of Westchester. I'm Danielle Davidson, owner of Main Street Business Strategies, and this week is for my joggers, runners, and speedwalkers. The Sleepy Hollow Halloween 10K will take place throughout the historic village of Sleepy Hollow on Saturday, October 26th. This annual Rivertown Runners event is one of the most fun and scenic races in the Rivertowns, as it winds through the storied Phillips Manor neighborhood along the Hudson River, passes the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery and the Old Dutch Church, and finally the Sleepy Hollow Lighthouse. The Kids Costume 1 Mile Fun Run for ages 6 and older starts at 9 a.m. and is $5 per person, including a finisher medal, which everybody needs. And for adults, online registration is $40 with race day registration at $50. Costumes are also strongly encouraged. People really go all out with their race day costumes, which makes watching the race also super fun activities for those who aren't joggers, runners, or speedwalkers. With live music, beer tastings for those 21 and older, and typically a sighting of the man, the myth, the legend himself, the Headless Horseman, this event is a great way to kick off Halloween weekend. Registration is limited to the first 2,000 people, and all details can be found on rivertownsrunners.org. That's rivertownrunners.org. Hope to see you all out there. Then head on back to the Valley Girls Pod for our next 4-in-1 of Westchester.
All right, let's switch gears to floral design because you are a florist. You have a background doing floral design. So tell us a little bit more about your work and your services with flowers.
So, right before COVID, I actually started growing flowers on my property. So I grew flowers for 4 years, and that's what kind of like catapulted this shop into being. And then like as I was working more and doing more commercial hospitality jobs or jobs that require different like varieties and quality levels, I started working more with imported flowers. So I'm not like a strictly local florist. At this point in time, I do flowers by advance order only. I don't do walk-ins. It's one of the ways I can reduce floral waste. I'm not buying things I don't need, not throwing out a ton of stuff at the end of the week. Or my number one thing is that I'm not selling old flowers because, quality is really important to me and everything that I do. So I do have a website, catchmewhereyoucan.com. I hope it's okay to mention that.
Of course. We'll put the link in the show notes and the description and everything so people can find you.
Yeah, so I accept orders through Monday for the following weekend. I have, a small delivery area, and I work with a lot of regular customers where I'm able, to match the flowers to like the undertones of their colors in their house. I do like really detailed personal work. And I do miss like, in my earlier days, I always had the store like festooned with flowers, which I do miss that a lot, but it's just, I'm not open that many hours a week. And so usually my flowers are like in and out in one day, and I keep a little bit extra for the store.
That's so exciting.
It's something I enjoy doing. I feel like I'm in a phase of life where like, if I don't enjoy it, I don't want to do it. So
that's valid.
Trying to live that life. We'll see how it goes.
So I love flowers. I love cut flower arrangements. I have a vision of myself someday growing up and being really good at arranging flowers, but I am not there yet. So from your professional experience, but talking to, an amateur hobbyist, do you have any great tips for doing floral arrangements at home? Any, best practices, things that you shouldn't do, and where can we source materials? There are a few places near where I live where you can buy individual cut flowers not already made into an arrangement, and it's not always easy to find that. Trader Joe's actually has normally really good floral stuff. So what are your thoughts on how I can make some cool looking arrangements at home, maybe just a centerpiece for a holiday table or something?
I think one of my first tips would be invest in some mechanicals. There's so many things you can use, like clear floral tape, frogs, chicken wire. I like to use branches a lot, so you can create like kind of a structure inside the vase with the branches to hold shape. So that will help you, be able to get the forms that you want and also use less stems. I think a great thing to have is a product called Quick Dip. It is kind of hard to like source, I think, floral materials up here. I haven't seen that available commercially. You can order it on that website that I don't want to mention that everyone uses. But what it does is it dilates the cells in the stem of the flower when you cut it, so that it gets like a rush of water. And like hopefully if you're like, I go through a 24-hour plus conditioning process here for the flowers that I buy. That's definitely one of the steps. And how they're treated when they cut makes all the difference in how long they last. So if anyone that has questions, you're welcome to stop in here. I'm happy to chat flowers, give some tips. And then we're having like a pretty warm fall, which means the local flower farms are probably getting like not even like bumper crops, like the dahlias would grow until Thanksgiving if there wasn't a frost. So, as long as this weather continues, it's a great time to support local flower farms. Like we have Voices in Saugerties and Glenary Farm as well. So
that's cool.
I also, something I've been doing in here just for ease is I've been buying like landscaping plants like pansies and mums and just putting them in terracotta pots and putting them in the store.
Yeah, that works.
I like the look.
Yeah.
It's easy, and like obviously we're getting into branch season, like fall branches, that kind of stuff too. If you can forage or have a space to do that.
Yeah. I like putting stuff in there that's a little bit weird. Like, not weird, but I love to put some herbs into a floral arrangement. So if you have any creative ideas of an arrangement that people are going to say, wow, I never thought of that, but it's going to look really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can get herbs that are specifically for the cut flower industry, like rosemary and oregano and all kinds of different things. I mean, I think that's a good way to do even just, there's nothing wrong with like a single variety arrangement, something like that can look great, just in a glass jar or something,
And then it'll
I like
smell
to keep
good
it simple,
too. Yes. So you have,
or put like 7 dozen roses in a pave. You could do that too. Because I kind of when you look at my website, you'll see like I do that stuff too.
All right. So do you feel like you should either go really simple or over the top? Like, do you like a big arrangement with a lot of height, or just something really, really simple, monochromatic? What usually looks the best, or does it just kind of depend
Depends
where
on
your
where
setting
it's
is?
going and the aesthetics of your space. I prefer low arrangements a lot of the time for tables because I'm actually working on plans for a wedding right now, and like there's always like the request you can get like a huge arrangement that's like everyone's face at the table. So like creating that height and still having like the floral impact. So for a dining table, like it is really nice to use what you have around your house, like, things that mean a lot to you, and create a tablescape. And you can do a lot with some bud vases and candles, or go big. Hallway, entryway, foyer, anything up against the wall is a great place. Like go for the height, kitchen islands. Branches are great for that because you can get a lot of impact with, just a few pieces. Like I'm looking over, I have some viburnum berries and pin acorn branches in my window right now. And thankfully they're still looking good week 3. I think I'll make it another week and I don't have to replace them.
That's nice. So is Quick Dip the secret to keeping your cut flowers looking fresh longer? Should you be changing the water every day? Should you be adding anything to the water? Is there anything that we can do for longevity?
So that's where I say like how your flowers are treated when they're first cut. Like I buy super high quality for my shop. So, if something's not right, usually my suppliers will replace it. And I just do really strong hydration, like high dose of flower food. I use commercial flower food. I don't do like the bleach and soda and that kind of stuff. Like it's so hard. It's all about measurement and consistency and percentages. So I just find those really help with longevity. If you're buying flowers out of, it's certain suppliers like grocery store, they've probably been treated with stabilizer that helps them last longer on the shelf, works better for some flowers than others. I hope that helps. But if you want like really good long-lasting flowers, find a local florist that can, or there's so much product available, they can really find things that you like. If they're doing other projects, they might have really cool stuff coming into the shop.
So if I buy an arrangement that's pre-made at a grocery store and it comes with a little packet of the powder stuff, does that do anything?
Yeah, basically it's providing food source and trying to prevent bacteria and stuff from propagating in the water. So, to be honest with you, like when I do arrangements that are just sitting in my store, I just add water. I know that they're going to last. I've had times where I've had roses in my window last for like 6 weeks and it's like,
wow,
boiling hot, like lights on 24 hours a day. It's kind of a sport for me.
See how long you can make them last.
See how I can make them last. Well, a lot of times people, when they order flowers and they're spending a lot of money, they might say, I want something that's going to last for 2 weeks. I'm not going to last for 3 weeks. And, that's probably not super realistic in most conditions, but, I do try to stretch them out. It's just part of like being less wasteful. And, you can always repurpose your flowers at home too. If you buy an arrangement, take out what doesn't look good, pop in a couple new things and, keep it going.
That's a great idea. Do you ever dry flowers from an arrangement that you really liked?
Sometimes. I think it just depends on what it is. Like certain flowers just benefit from hanging upside down as soon as they're cut. I used to have a huge wall of dried flowers in the back of my store for decoration. And when I renovated this summer, I took them down. I personally am more like branch fresh flower. I also get preserved flowers sometimes, and they can look really amazing. You know, I have certain customers that want like seasonal things, so I might do, you know, a mix of like dried, preserved, and like a little bit of artificial for them.
All right. So artificial plants and flowers are not cringe anymore. Is that right?
I don't know. I mean, it's not my favorite thing to do. I use them sparingly, but like sometimes, like if I'm doing a big piece with a lot of dried flowers and stuff, I might want to add like a pop of green or something. I go to a place like they're um ridiculously expensive if you want ones that look real. So I use them sparingly. Um, so yeah, I would say like use a light hand with those.
All right. So, all right. Before we let you go, we ask everybody for their Hudson Valley greatest hits. So it can be you're a Saugerties person, you've been here forever. So it could be anything that you love in Saugerties or in the whole area, whether it's your favorite coffee shop, hiking trails, live music venue, anything that you love that people should check out that you wish people knew about. But specifically, you also have to tell us your favorite pizza or pizzas, because we're obsessed with pizza and we ask everybody for pizza recommendations.
Okay. I'll start with pizza. Village Pizza has a margarita pizza on their menu now. It's really good. I like that. I also really like Sue's Pizza in Berkeley Heights on 9W. They have a wood-fired oven. I like the country pie, add sausage. It's like their crust is really good. And then kind of out of Saugerties, but I usually end up going to Hudson once a week for biz. And Talbot and Arding has these focaccia pizzas, and it's like, I remember one day I like stayed out kind of late. I was like really beat. And I don't know, just between like the olives and the capers and the pickled artichokes and everything, lots of electrolytes got me going, and it's like super delicious. The bread is really good.
That sounds delicious. I love focaccia. So that's nice. Yeah, and all those little salty bits on there are probably perfect.
Yeah, so good. And then I mean, there's so much love in Saugerties. You know, Emily and Kim Chambers around the corner on Main Street. Their shop is amazing. I love this little bookstore. I'm looking at it right now, called Our Bookshop across from me. I have my tablet right now on a huge pile of books from there.
Nice.
So that it's like high enough. They always have something amazing every time I go in there. The great trails just right outside of town, the Saugerties Lighthouse and Falling Waters are really nice.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of makes for a nice full day. If you visit here, you can get like a little outside, a little retail, a little dining.
Yeah.
And yeah, I grew up around here, so I feel like sometimes I do less than the people that are newer to the area, because I just like I'm in a program, but I love like the mountain roads and just like, you know, Catterskill Falls High Peak is like a really easy in and out place to get like the impact of the Catskills.
Do you have a special occasion place? Like if you were celebrating something big and you were going to go out to a fancy treat yourself dinner, do you have a place that you would do that?
So I have to say, my friend took me to Catskill Rose and Mount Tremper over the summer, and I think they're actually selling the business. So I would say have dinner there if you can. Like the food was just like really exceptional. I was like scraping the plate. And let me see where else. I do like Good Night in Woodstock. You know, of course we have Miss Lucy's and Saugerties. You know, you kind of have to just like do the circle, hit all the towns.
Yeah.
I always think like being in the Hudson Valley, it's kind of like, you know, when you live in the city, you're going 40 minutes on the subway, no matter what you're doing. So, you know, if you're willing to get in the car for like 20 to 40 minutes up here, there's just like so much to do. You know, so many things that I haven't even done yet because I was working all summer. And now, you know, we're getting into winter and fall.
But you're so right about being local and not taking advantage of things as much, because I grew up in the Hudson Valley. I grew up in Poughkeepsie, and then I went to college in Albany, and then I lived, you know, all around the Hudson Valley, Westchester. And then I moved away out of New York State. And now all I do is long to be back home in New York. And there's all these hiking trails and museums and historic homes. And I'm like, I had my whole life to do all those things. And I don't know, I guess it's like if you grow up in New York City and you never go to the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. But so it's funny how leaving and then coming back makes you have a new appreciation for it. So probably for you, if you have somebody who comes up to visit, a friend from the city comes up for the weekend, then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, we can go to the Vanderbilt Mansion and we can go to the Thomas Cole Historic Site, and things that you're just not doing in your normal orbit because it just feels like they're right there. You'll do it eventually. Or you have almost like that house blindness, like where you don't see the things that you go past every day. So
Yeah, and I think, running a small business is like no joke. You get like so tied up in things every day. It's hard to like carve out space, but I do like art a lot. And, just thinking my way up from Saugerties North, Opus 40 is amazing. Art Oh My is incredible. And then if you want to venture a little farther up, there's the school in Kinderhook and the Clark and Masmoka. All possible as day trips and just really world-class art, incredible structures.
Yeah. The day that we came and saw you in the shop, we were getting ready to go hit a bunch of places on the Saugerties Artist Studio Tour. That weekend was when all the studios were open, and it's so impressive. It's so mind-boggling how many talented people there are within a 40-minute drive of where you have your shop, and being able to go into their studios and see the place where they create and see their work and meet their cats and their dogs and their families. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I have in the past I haven't really structured my art program for the store yet. I just bought some incredible pieces. I just got a Cindy Sherman print that I really love.
Nice.
It's in the like might keep it flat file right now. I
could never do what you do. It's the same reason I can't do cat rescue, because I would foster fail every single time. So
yeah, it's hard. But in the past I had artwork in the store from a local artist named Kirsten Doyle. She does this like amazingly detailed work. She has a background in textile design, and people would just come in and not believe it was like oil on canvas painted by hand. They would be like convinced it was like some kind of, stencil or like block printing. But I wish I had a picture right now to show. She had some really amazing pieces. I bought a big one for my house.
You can send us a picture. We can put it up on the episode page so people can see.
For sure. Because I sold one of her pieces. It was, I'll send you a picture of it. It was like snippets of quilts that were maybe like this big, and just like hundreds of them like arranged in a pattern. Wow. It's like, I can't even write my name legibly. I guess that's an art form in and of itself, but like, so just really impressive technical technique and eye for detail.
Yeah, Saugerties has really an embarrassment of riches with artists. Also, Justin Love, who has a house and studio there in Saugerties, is selling his place and moving away. And so he's looking to clear out all of his art that he has at the house in Saugerties, and I think his shop in Woodstock. So maybe you guys can team up and do an art show sale at Catch Me When You Can.
Yeah, we actually also have a great art gallery right across the street from me at Green, which is I can't believe I failed to mention them earlier, but it's like a treasure trove of mid-century furniture, design, and objects. And they have a art gallery on the second floor called Figure Works, which has really amazing pieces, like a new show every few weeks. Really well curated.
So cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was fun talking about antiques and flowers and art and, of course, pizza.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope to see you in Saugerties again soon.
I know. I hope to be there again soon. I hope to be there at the height of the fall foliage in a few weeks, because that is the moment for the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review, because as we know, it all helps tremendously. Do you love the Valley Girls? Tell a friend. Have ideas for the podcast? Tell us. The easiest way to chat with us is our Facebook group, Valley Girls Podcast Pod Squad, or you can contact us through our website, valleygirlspodcast.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a thing. And of course, we're on Instagram at valleygirlspodny. We can't wait to hear from you. Oh, and do you love our theme music as much as we do? The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Red-Headed Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes. Bye for now.